led by Lieutenant A and the others.
We came close, we put a ladder up to the side of the ship. A man with a chainsaw cut the ladder off, and they were banging on the railing, and they were throwing at us stones and, I don't know, junk that they had over there on the ship. Several soldiers got hurt from that.
When the Israeli boat got closer, they threw their hooks onto the bottom deck of the ship. Our friends down there cut them off. From above, we threw chairs and anything we could find down on them. And after a while, they moved away.
It wasn't going according to the Israeli plan, but Navy commanders didn't rethink the operation at this stage.
The resistance was huge, much above the expectations. Someone had to say, well, the right conditions do not exist. Let's do something else. Let's take plan B.
So they brought the helicopters in, although they should really have stopped and thought at that point.
Exactly.
The first helicopter hovered over the top deck of the ship. The commandos inside were armed with non-lethal weapons, paintball and stun guns. But each man also had a pistol. They couldn't abseil down. The people below had tied the rope to the ship's antenna. One of the Israeli commandos in the helicopter was Sergeant Y.
Now I know they tied the rope, so no one could go down.
And how dangerous is that for a commando coming down?
Very, very dangerous, because you have to go down and put both legs on the ground. If not, you just drop from 15, 20 meters. So it's really, really dangerous.
The commandos cut the first rope, abseiled out the other side of the helicopter. One of the first Israeli commandos on deck was Captain R.
They came at me with knives and tried to stab me. I kept getting hit on my head, my whole body. They caught me by the arms and legs to throw me to the deck below. I fought back wildly and caught hold of the side. They beat my hands with clubs and I fell.
Captain R was one of two Israelis who were cornered and stabbed.
I felt a strong stab in my stomach. I looked down at my abdomen and saw it was a knife, and I pulled it out. The beating was continuous, and the cries of Allah Akbar.
As soon as he fell to the ground, myself and another brother descended upon him. The first thing I did was go for that 9mm pistol, knowing that if he got to it first, we might be the ones that were dead. So to me, this was actually an act of attempting to save life, because once I took possession of that weapon, I wasn't going to use it. And in fact, I emptied the bullets from that weapon.
The IHH claim they were acting in self-defense. They say the Israelis started using live fire right from the start of the operation.
Şu anda ateş ediyorlar hiç durmadan. Ve her seferinde arkadaşlarımız yer alıyor. Üzerimize ateş ediyorlar. Bomba atıyorlar. Denizaltıdan çıkarma yapmaya çalışıyorlar. Biz mücadelemizi yapıyoruz. Şu anda her şeyi gördü. Yani bunlarda insanlık diye bir şey yok.
This is not passive resistance, this is fighting. You see the bars?
At this point, it had gone beyond passive resistance, because the Israelis had been firing from the start. These people are defending themselves while being fired at.
The Israelis say it's not possible to fire while abseiling from a helicopter. They insist their audio shows the commandos didn't use live rounds until they were shot at.
But they were civilians.
They were not. They may be a civilian Turkish people, but they were terrorists, plain and simple. They're trying to attack us, they're trying to kill each and every single one of us. and we were just defending our lives.
We have a very clear evidence that at least in 4 cases, the other side did use live fire. In some of them, they did use the Israeli weapons that was stolen from our soldiers, but at least in 1 case, they did use their weapon, because we found bullets and shells of weapons that is not in use in the Israeli forces.
What I do know for sure is that I had one of their guns, and if I wanted to use that gun, I could have easily used it, but I didn't do that, and I did not see anybody from IHH use a weapon. If we wanted to, we could have used weapons and killed some of their soldiers. That is a fact.
The question of who shot first remains disputed and unresolved. The Israeli boats came alongside again. Lieutenant A and the others now managed to board. They fought their way forward along the sides of the ship to take control of the bridge.
I used my handgun only when I got up on the ship, also to defend myself from the people that tried to assault me. Only then did I use my handgun.
Do you know if you killed anybody or injured anyone?
I don't know. I think that I probably injured people because I shot them in the legs. I aimed at the legs.
But people were being killed. The dead and wounded were carried down below. Amongst the casualties was Fatih, hit in the chest by paintball pellets, in the arm by a live round.
After I was shot, my friends took me inside to the first floor. Everyone was panicking and shouting for the doctor because 50 people were badly wounded. I saw friends covered in blood.
The Israelis controlled the upper deck. The activists had retreated below. By now, there weren't just passengers down there.
They hauled 2 soldiers down here, bleeding and wounded.
An IHH volunteer took charge of the Israeli commandos. His name? Murat Akinen.
My first instinct was to get the soldier to safety, but he was very scared. After that, a second and third wounded soldier came in. I saw big fear in their eyes.
Captain R was one of the wounded Israelis taken below.
I felt this was the moment. Any minute I am going to die. I'm losing blood all the time, and I could die both because of my injuries and the tension down there.
Video shows Murat trying to protect a commando from angry people.
Understandably, having seen wounded and dead friends, some people were saying we should do to them what they did to us. I calmed them down, saying, according to our religious beliefs, we ought to treat them and take them back.
I realized there were 2 opposing forces there, one that wanted to kill us and more moderate people. They tried to pull away those trying to escalate the situation and finish us off.
Then Captain R was taken back upstairs. He didn't know if he was a hostage or what would happen to him.
The moment we got on deck, we heard a shot from an Israeli stun gun. They hit my guard and he ran back inside. Me and another soldier found ourselves alone and we just jumped off the bow into the water.
All 3 Israeli commandos were rescued. It was dawn. The Israelis had taken the ship, and the IHH were collecting their dead. Ken O'Keefe carried one of the stretchers.
You had a chaotic situation where we all did the best we could. The dead bodies were piling up. You had grieving women laying over the bodies of men. You had people frantically trying to stem the flow of blood from injured people.
Lubna Marsowa appealed to the Israelis over the tannoy.
We are civilians, taking care of injured people. Don't use violence.
9 people died, but was it a price worth paying to get the attention on Gaza?
I scared, and I really scared when I saw all the blood, and I don't want anyone to die. But there is no resistance, there is no freedom without paying a price.
The Israelis evacuated the badly wounded to hospital. They tried to counter criticism of their military operation by displaying the weapons they found on the ship. Proof, they said, that this had been a premeditated attack by the IHH.
Unfortunately, they managed to achieve exactly what they wanted, and this is to create a provocation that they would be able to show that the Israelis caused the death of 9 civilians. So Israel is using excessive force, and Israel is guilty for everything. And unfortunately, it was quite successful.
They have a point, don't they? Many people in the world see it as Israel once again using excessive and disproportionate force.
I don't think that the force was excessive.
The Mavi Marmara didn't break the blockade of Gaza, but it did spark international outrage. The Israelis set up their own investigations, and they're cooperating with a UN inquiry. So what about the aid the IHH said was the reason for their mission? Some of it's arrived in Gaza from Israel, and it's sitting in a warehouse. Mobility scooters, hospital beds and drugs. But I found that 2/3 of the medicines are out of date and useless. At the end of the day, the bid to break the naval blockade wasn't really about bringing aid to Gaza. It was a political move designed to put pressure on Israel and the international community. The price was high. 9 people died, but the outcry ensured the flotilla achieved its aim. And the IHH presented the dead as martyrs for the cause of Gaza.
If the embargo isn't lifted, then of course there'll be more flotillas. We'll go back with more boats. We lost 9 people. This isn't something that can just be left like that.
The Israeli Navy is watching the coast round the clock. In response to the international pressure, Israel said it would ease the land blockade of Gaza, but the sea blockade is still in force. Navy Commando 13 is on alert for more flotillas to come. The Battle of the Med isn't over yet.
Jane Corbyn reporting there, and that crucial UN investigation is due to deliver its verdict next month. Meanwhile, there are plans for another Free Gaza flotilla later in the year. You can find out much more about this story on the Panorama website. Next week, opening up the closed world of the family courts. One couple's fight to keep their son and tell the full story of what happened to them.